Again, apologize, I'm a few seconds late. So I'm going to be handing out some papers, and actually I believe we'll be able to bring these up on here as we kind of go through some of the discussion. So just want to begin by thanking everyone. As you can see, we got quite an arrangement of individuals here. You can imagine trying to coordinate this many schedules, very difficult. So I know some of you probably had to rearrange some things, so just want to first of all say thank you so much for being here. So just a couple of notes. So there is just one microphone. We did test it from all areas, and it actually picks up extremely well. So act as if you were on a hot mic all night tonight while you're here, because even some whispers can get picked up. So I just want you to be aware of that. So you've been fair warned, I guess you could say. So on that, but it does work extremely well. So we appreciate that. And this way, we're also able to be on our camera up top there above Leslie, so everybody's able to be seen on the camera in that regard. So that's why we have this configuration for that. So do we need to do like a roll call vote on this? Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that here in a minute. But again, just want to thank everybody for being here. Our commissioners, thank you for taking the time, and the staff as well from the county and the staff from the city. College of Idaho, great to have you here, and also Cull1Eye Rodeo, all these wonderful stakeholders that we have out at the Cull Event Center for all the great events that take place. And we do have some community members here as well. It's great to see you. Thank you for taking the time to be with you here today, be with us today. And again, this is a workshop, which means no decisions are made. This is for discussion, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But again, just want to emphasize that. Again, this isn't for final decisions, anything like that, just to see where we're at, in which direction the commission and the council would like for this to go. So with that, I'll turn it to Debbie to do a roll call. And then do you have somebody for?
They had just opened, Mayor, a minute before you just announced the quorum for the county commission.
Okay.
So we're good on
So good on that. Okay, very good, excellent. Okay.
Councilors Doty,
Here.
Stotty,
Here.
Register, Williams,
Here.
Allgood,
Here.
Denver.
Here.
Good. Thank you so much. As you can see, all council members are here on that. And again, so just grateful to have everyone here. As you can see, we set this room up purposefully like this. We could have basically a roundtable discussion. Did not want us up there and everyone down here, so we're all equal partners on this. So thought that was just the best way to kind of set that up and have this open dialogue. Questions are great. Discussion to go through this. We do ask just please be respectful. We may have differing opinions on different things, and that is a good thing. So you'll want your opinion respected, so please respect other people's opinions as well. So we just ask for that. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it around, and I should be, so we got one, how many? 6 down this way. So this is, again, will be pulling up on the screen, I guess behind it and in front, so that'll be great. I'm going to take that down that way. And then, so the first one is, it's just an aerial of the property that we'll be kind of discussing tonight. And then the second one is just average land estimates that we've got. We'll get into that in a little. Okay, so I've got my bullet points here on this. So again, this is just to focus on the collaboration that's been going on in regards to this. As I mentioned, we have so many stakeholders involved in this, and so this is key to just kind of see what kind of collaboration we can get. And really the goal is that everybody comes out winners at the end of this. Not just that the city wins more than the county or the fair, the rodeo, or the college, but really how can we get to a place, is it possible to get to a place where everybody feels that they're in a better place after this than when we started? That really is the goal, to see if we can get to that. I have had some meetings with Diana and Greg over the county, appreciate that, and had discussions with the rodeo, with College of Idaho. And I want to make sure it's very clear that we knew in all the discussions we had, it's very clear that we know that we are not the decision makers. That rests on the county commissioners on the county side, and then the council on the city side. And so we are always very clear about that in all discussions that we had. I know sometimes things get taken out of context away from the discussion that takes place, but I can vouch for the commissioners that your staff was wonderful. Never did they give any promises, anything of that nature, always assuring that, look, this sounds great and everything, but it doesn't rest on us. It rests on the three of you. And so they were wonderful to work with. And I just want to make sure that you know that never was there any promises, anything of that nature. They were just terrific in all that regards. And same for the council. You can know that I did the same and make sure that it was very well aware when we discussed that whatever was discussed would have to be decided by the council, and that was up to discretionary decision on that. And again, the goal for tonight is get direction from the commission and from the council in regards to these proposals, and other thoughts are great. Trust me, this isn't where the initial discussion started, so we look forward to more discussions, and if there's other and better ideas that ways to move forward, we are open to anything and everything on that and kind of seeing where you're at. So trying to work together to get to the best place at the end of the day. So there was a letter that was sent in last week that you should have all received that Debbie forwarded from Gray Wolf. So just quick to mention that we appreciate Mr. Wolf and his family. They're longtime Caldwell residents, huge supporters of the College of Idaho, huge supporters of the city of Caldwell, and in fact, really Canyon County over the years, and really decades, you could say, with the Wolf family on that. And so just want to make sure that's clear that, so Mr. Wolf had approached the college, or called the city, actually well before any of these discussions started, and say, look, I really want to do something for the city. I really helped the college out a lot. I'd love to come to the city and talk to you, see if there's something we can do with the city also. And so we put our heads together. We actually came up with a proposal that would benefit the city and the college, and that was the possibility of locker rooms at Simplot Stadium. But again, that actually discussion started well before we had met and had any of these discussions in regards to this potential swap. So those are two very distinct. So tonight's focus is really on this land and the locker rooms. That is if we're kind of down the road, still very hopeful on that, and do appreciate Mr. Wolf's letter and his support on that and in this regards, but just want to make sure that's clear that those discussions did begin before this, and we kind of said, well, let's wait and see what happens here, and then I get a better direction to go in regards to the locker rooms. And again, tonight is just discussion to see where this is at, which direction wants to go out or go at. If it does seem to be more water at the end of the day that the council and commission want to pursue this further, whatever direction that is. A lot of details that would have to be worked out to understand that, so we won't get into too much of that tonight. Some of it we would like to, if it does seem favorable to the commissioners, to the council, to move in some type of direction like this. There are a couple of points we'd like some discussion on tonight, and Greg can add to these too if I miss any. I know one is timing, that if this does look like it's a positive venture moving forward, obviously the county fair, it's not going to happen this year. I mean, obviously, we can start this year, but they're not going to be able to move over for the fair this year in that regard, nor next year. It's going to take some time on that, so we want to make sure that that's clear, that they need time to build new buildings, to do all those things, so that it's a smooth transition from one area to the other. And then also some MOUs regarding finer details such as parking at Wolf Field and at the other location, the use of Gaviola Field. So some of those finer points, just understanding that we want to make sure that there's going to be a lot of detail on that, stating that the parking is public on both sides. Doesn't matter if it's on the cities or the counties. The Wolf Field is the cities utilized with the College of Idaho on that, and that Gaviola Field in that regards as well. Some understanding on the county's ability to use that for basically for the carnival. Does it have a specific name that Carnival, there you go, that works, Carnival. So we'll go to the map, and then after that, so we'll kind of open it for discussion, and just keeping it, if you don't mind, to just, I guess, raise your hand, or just kind of note, and then we'll call on you, so we kind of keep some favor, we don't have people talking over each other, we can get those questions answered as we go through. So I'm looking at your map, and again, this is just a starting point, and we'll see where we end by the end of this meeting. So the area is dictated on here. I'll start with number 2. So that is more or less Griffiths Park. That was donated to the city in the 90s, I believe. Does that sound right, Debbie? And stipulations in the deed that it must be used either for public purpose or for county fair, specifically stated in the deed on that. So that's more or less that area shown in 2 that the city currently owns. And then 3A is the indoor arena that the county owns. And then 3B is actually just across the street over here. It's the Ag Extension Office located at 501 Main Street, basically kitty corners from the police station. So the intent, again, the original starting point is that the city has the potential to trade number 2, and then in return to the county, in return would receive 3A and 3B from the county. On that. So that would allow the county fair to basically re-establish themselves within that area of number 2. They already own, I didn't outline it, but the fair, the center, building. They already own that property and that building. Amazing event, by the way, on Friday night with the College of Idaho there, so that was great to be there and to see that. So they would then have that property that they already own along with number 2. They would relocate, I believe, the Ag Extension Office. They want to rebuild there, along with pictures for horses, things of that nature, moving all of those to that location, and also having these concerts located within that area as well. Some of the discussions was in regards to the carnival. One of the concerns was if you have those animals in that area and the carnival really close by to that conflict. So the proposal would be that Gabulos Field would be able to be used for the fair during fair week on that. So they'd have that ability to do that. 1A and 1B. So 1A are the affectionately known as the wingtips here at the city at the Wolf Field. So with this agreement, the city would have the responsibility to pave those wingtips. That plan has actually already was drawn up a few years ago, but we'd have that responsibility to get that paved. So we'd have some additional paved parking. And then 1B would be the realignment of Stop Trout Road. So now, as you can see, it does jag through the property and kind of bisects it. So that would get aligned. That would be on the responsibility of the county to pay for that realignment of that road as part of this agreement as well. And that kind of is where we're at. Last thing I'll just kind of touch on real briefly, we'll go into some discussion and questions, is land value on estimates. So I want to make sure very clear that we have not paid for an official appraisal yet on any of this. I appreciate Mr. Steve Jenkins down the table there. So he reached out to 2 different sources of people that he works with really closely in regards to land valuation for commercial properties, things of that nature. So with those 2 estimates, the averages for number 2 came out to 5.9, just over $5.9 million for that land. The estimates on number 3A and 3B. So 3A estimate, this is again the average of the 2 estimates, was just over $4.7 million, and 3B, the building just over here, the average of those 2 estimates was $833,000. So which put the county value, again an average estimate, at just under $5.6 million, and the city's value right about $5.9 million. So pretty close. And I can forward that email to all of you so you have that and kind of see where those estimates came from and those exact numbers. But that was the average of the 2. So we felt really good that was really close on that, that the county's not getting taken advantage and the city's not either on that side, but a pretty fair, pretty close estimate on those 2 properties. So that's a lot of talking by me. I need some water, so I'm going to shut up and we'll kind of turn it over to discussion. Greg or Diana, anything you want to add before we do get into discussion or anything like that?
I was just going to say, Mayor, I think that's a good recap of really what's going on here. And actually, the trade of the properties came through when the mayor, myself, and Dan are walking through and looking about parking. We kind of throw an idea out there. The mayor saying, hey, we think about trading the properties since the deed really does say for ag use and fair use and public purpose use. And can we just pay before you get the building? Could you actually use this building? Which then started the whole conversation where we're at now. So it's kind of organic, go by the way. Let's think about this. And so I think it does fix. I know there were some plans back in 2017 in working with the city of potentially moving the fair in this direction anyways under Brent Horton. And there's some things done preemptively for that. But we do have a vision. Diana's been working really hard about what does this look like by moving fair operations to the other side. And that way we can have separation. It's ironically the center is called the center. It's the center of the property between 21st Avenue and Linden. So we thought maybe it'd be a good split there. So if you want to go into a vision, I guess. You want to share? You want to share?
Yeah, really I think most of you know that the fair's really talked about expansion since, I think, probably the late 70s, definitely the early 80s. And going this direction has always been something that was discussed, and and then for a while they went a different direction in regards to a different property outside of city limits. But in 2017, the commissioners pointed to this site. So when that first meeting with the stakeholders, really it was what do you need, what do you want? and we kind of all threw out ideas, and it was a really positive experience. So in my head, especially when we built the new building, my vision's always been to go this route. I think for those of us that live the logistics of the stakeholders that are on site and all have big events, it would be more efficient for all of us if we could stay as much out of each other's way as we could. And for us having ultimate control over our property would be helpful. So this plan, that kind of what we've outlined, it would our livestock space, our ag space would be more than 3 times the size it is now. And I think we could provide an overall better experience and a more condensed experience. The way our layout is now, it's skinny and long, and then we have some dead areas. Concert areas are going to be dead during the day because they're a nighttime thing, and you can't really put anything in there during the day because of sound checks and things like that. But if we can put those on perimeters of our grounds instead of in the middle, that's going to just help us have a better fair day experience the entire day.
Excellent. So, and, okay, do you have one other, or?
One more,
Yeah,
Mayor.
oh yeah, please.
And there's also the issue we have, we're county agents downtown, we have parking issues, the programs are actually growing. They'd like to expand some new programs, we want to consolidate county agents with the fair, have kind of the same area. So that's another consideration of moving all of that, and we would need that building any longer in downtown Caldwell. So we saw the opportunity to consolidate that as well.
Very good, thank you so much. And what we may do, we appreciate you coming over here to the City Hall. So as our guests, I think it'd be appropriate to allow the commissioners to perhaps go first and kind of give their thoughts and any comments or discussions on that. Feel free to start with.
For what we've been briefed from staff, this is the thing that's worried me is there's so many important stakeholders. This is the first plan that really addresses all of them at the same time. And I think it's something that we need to seriously consider, see if we can facilitate it.
Chairman, I appreciate Mayor hosting this meeting, City Council making time. That was as you've indicated, an effort that's not always easy to do, but with as many people, with as many interests as there are, I like the idea of having space where county owns the ground that we're going to utilize. I know the Caldwell Rodeo and CMI vested interest. You referenced the letter from the whole family. There's a lot of interested players in the community that are tenured people that are here. So this is a great phase one. I think this looks great. I appreciate your comments that there would be willingness potentially, heard from the State Council, to allow the fair to continue to use a portion of Capital Field. I think that's important. That's the fair director's right to speak to that on how much space, but we have yet to really know what some of the ancillary plans are for the rodeo and others. But I know that the county is interested in negotiating in the best interest of the public that serves a multiplicity of needs for entertainment in our community.
Mayor, thanks for having us. I think Diana said it. We kind of need to get out of each other's way. No secret, we own a building right in the middle of a very popular spot that you guys have future plans for. So if we can work something out where we give you the property to make everyone successful going forward, then all ears.
Very good, excellent, thank you so much. So we can jump in. If the council wants to have, maybe it'd be good to get some council thoughts.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
can we hear from the rodeo
Yeah.
and what they're wanting in the deal too? I'm sure they want something, and from CMI and see what they want as well. It's hard to form an opinion and so
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, that sounds great. We'll do that. Let's start with, since you're right across from me, we'll start with Ann. Congratulations, by the way, the new general manager. Is that the right title? So super excited for that and for what's going to happen up in the Maroney as a community. So
Thank you.
we'll start with you.
I think so we're here to really just listen and information gather. We understand, I mean, we are within 4 weeks at that of each other of both of our major events of the year. And so, I've been here for 7 years, and just the complexities of pulling off two World Class events that close together has its own complexities. And then, you throw on top of each other the fact that we're literally on top of each other while that's happening. So I think that opportunity for growth and expansion for all of us is a really healthy, natural move of evolution. And frankly, it gives us all security of what our futures might hold. And I think all of us have a long-term goal of being there as long as we possibly can. So I think it's a very appealing setup and dynamic. There's certainly some concerns on how it impacts us moving forward if the city does take ownership of that building. What happens if there's somebody who comes along and maybe wants to purchase property from Blaine Street all the way to Stocktrail Road? Right now, it really doesn't matter who owns ownership of that area as long as we remain having access to it and being able to use it. If that is cut off, we essentially get cut off at the knees in a very different way, right? So that's a major concern for us. We would like to take a look at our lease that we have with the city and maybe look at where there's some pockets of that lease was written a long time ago. There's a lot of outdated information in there. Let's get it up to date. Let's put in some current uses and clarification on when we use different areas, like for instance O'Connor Field House, which is a huge part of our rodeo week for our VIP dinner, and then how we access the fair building, the Charlotte Barns, all of those things. So that's really where our interest lies. We love the proposed opportunity for the C of I to build their locker rooms. We love the opportunity for the fair to really expand and give them the full room to become whatever it is they're going to become in the future. So we're all in on being open ears and hearing the overall plan, but I think right now we're kind of in a listening information gathering stage.
Mayor, yeah, thank you, and thank you for scheduling this meeting. Thank you, council members and of course commissioners for being here. Nicole said that quite well. One thing I want to add, and we have copies of this here, I think sometimes people forget that the rodeo is a great week of entertainment, but the rodeo also makes a very significant impact in economic conditions in Canyon County. On an annual basis, we bring in over $6 million into Canyon County of new money. So that's not considering dollars that are, I'm spending here in Canyon County, you're spending here in Canyon County. That's new money to Canyon County. So for all of the stakeholders in the room, that makes a difference. I think where we're getting a little nervous is just with our lease, kind of ticking away some of the conditions in our lease that likely need updated. And we've done a really good job of having handshake deals about usage of this facility for a lot of years. And so I think for us to feel very comfortable, we'd like to have some of those terms really laid out in an updated lease, as Nicole mentioned. The other thing that I'll state, and we're thankful for the support from the city, we're in a pretty substantial capital campaign. We're looking to add another $7.5 million of infrastructure at Caldwell Night Rodeo. That's difficult to do if our stakeholders or those companies who are asking for funding have some concern that the rodeo has a long-term future in that location. Nobody wants to donate $1 million to a facility that might move a few years down the road. So I think, Mayor, what we're going to be looking for is just the terms and conditions outlined in such a way that we have confidence in protecting our business, but also the community has confidence that the rodeo is here to stay.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you so much. Very good. Collier, Idaho.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us and including part of the conversation. I was excited to meet with all of you. I think from the college's standpoint, we're very similar to rodeo. Obviously, we need to work through our lease. We've got some things in there that need to be updated, both probably from Simplot Stadium and Wolf Field, as some things are changing definitely. So we do need to continue to look at that. Obviously, with the support of the Wolf family and partnership with the city, looking at potentially what we can do at Simplot Stadium to continue to upgrade that to make that as nice a facility as we have at Wolf Field, and that's been a public-private partnership as well. So looking forward to that as well. One of the concerns we do have right now is parking. I know we spent a lot of time on some parking plans, and I just saw one, it was kind of released the other day, very similar map. We talked about the 81 or 83 extra spots over at Simplot. 1A is of particular interest to us. You did mention that that's been on the docket. Well, it's been on the docket for a while, and we haven't seen a lot of movement on that. As somebody who's parking over there quite regularly, it's not ideal. My husband doesn't appreciate the goat's heads I bring home. I said, I'm just trying to spread the love, not buying it. So we are concerned to lose, if we lose the parking as we straighten out Stock Trail down 1B, if we lose this lot that's right across from Wolffield, and what the current parking plan is. And I know you mentioned earlier that whether it's city or county parking, that'll be open. We want to, obviously that's a concern. We want to ensure that because right now the small lot we do have is filled predominantly with our student athletes. It's not even visitors to our games since we don't provide transportation to and from practice and from games. So parking is a concern. We'd love to see what a parking plan would look like both from the county and the city as we continue to develop this particular side of the property. And then, like I said, Gabiola, great interest to us, continue to upgrade that area, but you mentioned that earlier and we will discuss that at a later date. Coach?
Well, as a football coach, I just want to say, first of all, really appreciate the support we've gotten from the rodeo, the county, and the city. It's just been phenomenal in my 12 years here. And it's great to be part of the efforts just to do great stuff in the community. So thank you very much.
I think one of the mainstays every year of the football team, you always see them at the rodeo, you always see them at Bug Crew breakfast working, so that's always happens every year, so it's a great partnership both ways on that. I know parking was raised as a concern, and I know in the discussions that we've kind of had is that I believe the proposal, maybe I'll just give one like rather than me stage you. Do you want to talk about that or kind of the process that you guys had out there?
We'll kind of tag team that one there, but we do have some quick ideas and sketches how we would lay out that expansion, and we might have to make some more copies when we brought 12. But it kind of addresses your parking and parking questions you had for the other partners here.
I thought we could share.
Yeah.
Each of us had, a couple of us had one.
How we gonna have
We can share one, right?
We might be able to do there if we can just share
Okay,
that.
great.
Yeah. It'll be through the moment.
Oh, yes.
Like that.
I think we're gonna get there.
Good.
So as we all know, parking has always been forefront of the questions, trying to figure out the plan, but parking, we've always wanted to put that out there as a solution for all parties. So Diane has worked on this kind of a mock-up, kind of a general layout of what we're thinking about placing items with the impression that would be moving on Griffiths Parkway to continue Stock Trail. And then with the parcel swaps that we're talking about, kind of fits with the vision of here with the parking that the city on that 1A, also asphalted around Wolffield. So if you want to come through that.
Yes. So I want to address the parking right away, directly across from Wolffield. I don't know, I've never pitched that, at least in our conversations, as a completely paved parking lot. If you know me, you know that I love grass. it's just cooler, and the last week of July is really, really hot. So, as we move forward, I would like to develop that, in a combination of paved parking, but also grass that could be used as parking during the fair or, and obviously the rodeo as well. So Regan, I just wanted you to know that I'm not planning on 7 acres
I
of,
was curious, I'm like, that's contrary to any conversations we've ever had.
yeah,
So,
but,
okay,
but I do, there are ways to lay out a grass parking lot that can be really efficient.
sure. Okay.
And then the red area is where we're proposing, and this isn't exact. I don't want anybody to think, oh, we're gonna get rid of the parking lot that's there now. I mean, this is just a general concept. But the red area, that's where, our livestock building would be. That would be where the extension office, livestock show offices, and then some stalling structures would be. The main building would be, enclosed concrete floor. That's where our show rings would be during the fair. That's gonna provide the best guest experience, the best exhibitor experience, and most likely the best animal experience during the fair. And then our stalling structures would be more like the Charlet barn, open air. They would be taller with fans, fans similar to what we have in the center in the fair building. Just for air movement, they would be a half wall too. Instead of the Charlet barn is open on the sides, and we also would need awnings. Enough awning space so there's shade on the sides. We currently hang those shade tarps, and if we could design the building in a way we don't have to do that, that would just be more efficient for our facilities department. So that red area is those, that's where those buildings would be. What's exciting for us, and any of you who've been listening to people talk about the parking situation, is that parking behind those structures would be, there'd be parking there, but what I would like to incorporate is a design for our unloading process that would be really efficient. Because the way we're situated now, it works, but it doesn't work great. And I think we could design it in a way that would be very efficient. We would also have our wash racks back there, manure removal, garbage, things that you don't want forward facing to the public. Those would actually be behind, and then there would be ease of haul off, which we also kind of struggle with at times now. So I like the ability with that space specifically to design it in a way that it's efficient for animals, efficient for kids, efficient for services that we have to provide. And then across, our vision a little bit with Griffiths Parkway is that, I mean, it would still remain pavement, and we'd probably line it with vendors, have some entertainment areas built in there. The center stays as is, and then carnival concert area. Concerts kind of up in there as far as there's a number of places that concerts could happen. So, but that's what we're thinking as of right now.
And then just furthermore, you correct me if I'm wrong, but the blue area on top of the red, we're trying to also control the entrances into the fair. So you can control ticket sales, so people aren't just crawling in the fair without paying their admission fee. But we'd have an area that's laid out so the rodeo could use that parking above that red area as well for their events and whatnot. If we use it strategically for unloading and for trailers and for bigger venues.
And also with the rodeo, I think I've said this before, but those open air barns, if there's enough space, you should be able to put rigs right in there, or you could set up horse stalls, however you want to do it. But I would think that we would design it in a way that you could utilize those as well.
Awesome, thank you so much. So I guess we did have somebody say the volume is a little low. I checked that I know we tested it before. Can this get turned up a little bit, Eddie? Okay, so we'll turn that up a little bit so we can make sure that everybody's able to hear on that. Okay, awesome, thank you very much. Hope I didn't cut you off, I think you're in on that.
I think we're good, but just one last, just gonna say,
Yeah.
we're trying to design this so all partners can take advantage of the whole area. and make it more fluid for parking.
Mayor, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
I think that's something that's certainly a goal for us internally at the radio. I know we haven't always been the best neighbor, and all the stakeholders have had our different moments of where we've had frustrating moments with one another, and that truly is an internal goal of ours across the board, is to be a better neighbor, a better partner, not just with the fair, but with the College of Idaho, with the city, with the county, with everybody moving forward. And I think what we have in that area is so incredibly special and unique. It would be a disservice to every single one of us if the College of Idaho had to locate their football field and other sporting events elsewhere. Same thing with the county fair and the rodeo. So I think if we can keep the focus on how magical it is that we have that all right there, and keep the goal to allow all of us to thrive and expand and grow right where we're at, we would be crazy to not protect that and keep that the way it is.
Excellent. Thanks so much. I appreciate the detail about not all being paid parking. It's funny, I actually mentioned at the event that was on Friday night, a lot of the parking happened in, let's see, this blue area that you show us for public parking, and it was all grass. And so I remember reaching out, actually, I emailed our public works director and others saying, because we're going to obviously utilize that this year for parking, and I thought was dry it out, cut it down. I emailed them and said, actually, can we keep it green? Because it was so nice actually getting out and walking on grass. It was actually, it was really nice. I kind of liked it. So, okay, very good. Maybe we'll jump into this side of the table, get some thoughts over here and some discussion.
I don't mind starting.
Yeah, go right ahead, Councilor Doty.
Shy. I would like to see the painted phrases that this was to go forward on the buildings, as well as an assessment of the buildings that are to be created in regards to what it would cost to bring them up to the 21st century, as well as what are the current maintenance costs, and I'm guessing that would go to the assessment. How long is the roof going to last? What's it look like inside? Is it ready for data? All of those things that will be an expense to the city. It's clearly easier to take care of grass and to mow and water than it is to take care of buildings. You need more personnel, and you need more maintenance and operating costs to do that. And then one thing that struck me too is planning. So all of you have lots of events. We've talked about the main events, but all of you have other events, all those other events. And so really that would be for them to work out, because depending on who has control over what, like we just heard a little bit, if somebody comes and says, well, I have my event, I control this piece of property, so sorry that you have your event as well, you can't use it today. And so I think there needs to be some sort of coordination, and then working that out with each stakeholder, because they probably all want a piece of who's going to be coordinating that, and who gets to decide when. Even if you have shared parking spaces, who gets to trump who when it comes to those parking areas? And so you either have to hire someone to control that and come up with some process who gets their paperwork in first, or whatever that is. I don't need to get into the weeds on how they've been defined, who gets to override who. But if in the end, if you get down to it, it's whoever controls the area. And so if someone adds something late, like the county adds something late, then the county may tell the rodeo, well, you were going to use this grass pavement area, but now you cannot, because now we have projects. So that's a concern for me, or them, because clearly I wouldn't be inside there. And I think I'd have to see the contracts and the demands from C of I and the rodeo. They all could mention redoing the leases. It's awfully hard for me to give an opinion on if I would agree with a plan to swap the land without knowing what you want to lease, and not just saying it, but what would end up in the final paper. So some of the work could be for naught, but it also could be very beneficial. Both. I get it. It's a lot of work to have still the decision made by our commissioners and by the council, but without it, I don't know how we make the decision. Thank you.
Dan, great points. Appreciate that. Yeah.
This some concerns I have. First of all, I think we have to remember we're still accountable to the taxpayers, and we want to make sure relative to Roy, for instance, are we serving the 4-H? Are we serving the kiddos? There's been some misinformation out there about crossing the railroad tracks. all the other stuff, but I want to make sure that we take care of that. I know at one time in my earlier career on the council, Nicole, there was some talk about moving the rodeo out in 2026. Has that kind of died off then, or?
Yeah, so where that came from is basically just saying, okay, the valley is growing and expanding. If we couldn't exist where we are today, where else would we go or would allow us to continue to expand and grow? Where that pivoted and took a hard change or hard turn for us was when we made the commitment to this capital campaign. We're investing some serious money into this property, and we're doing so because we want to stay put for much longer than I'll be around to see it expand and grow. So our commitment is long-term is exactly where we're at today.
Okay, good to hear. Another concern I had is, you know, the word isolating can come up here, and I want to make sure that you know, we are partners in this thing, all entities that are involved with this, and I want to make sure we don't forget that, because we have to cooperate with each other. Other concern I had was parking relationships to activities. You know, we can't expect, especially the seniors and the disabled folks and all that, I want to make sure that as we look into that, make sure that we have a plan for that, because we don't want to, and this is an exaggeration, we don't want to, people walk from Wolffield all the way over to the rodeo ground or the carnival, whatever. So I think we need to keep that in mind too. And I agree with Councilor Doty's idea. I think we have to have that. Yeah, one.
It's recording.
We have to have a coordinator for all this. We have to hire somebody, whatever we need to do, because it's pretty obvious to me that what's happened over the last year doesn't work very well. You know, the left foot doesn't know what the right foot's doing, and we get upset with each other. So I really think that we have to think about hiring a coordinator for all this to make sure that that person is accomplished. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Very good, appreciate it. Councilor Richard?
I don't have that much to say, believe it or not, but I am very thankful that you all are here having this conversation, and I think when you do this, it's a true testament to how communication works and how many things can be solved without having big problems. I agree with Councilor Stoddard. I like the idea of having a coordinator, somebody that's kind of in the middle of this and facilitating communication, making sure that council is aware, commissioners are up to date. But of course, I guess that's a cost thing unless there's already somebody in place that can do that. And then I'm glad you guys brought up the leases. I have read them and I absolutely agree they need to be updated. There was mention of that parking over there where that hotel is going, so I'm very happy to hear that those leases are going to be fixed so that everybody's on the same page. And then the other questions that I have, and I'm not sure if this is even the appropriate time for it, is more what happens now? What happens this year? Is there a plan for, well, the hotel's being constructed for the, like Ms. Center was talking about, like bringing in the livestock and all that kind of stuff. Like, is there a plan? I know that we've heard a lot of concern about that right now. What's the immediate plan while all this is happening?
Do you want an answer right
Yeah,
now?
that would be my answer. Or just that there's a plan, I guess.
Yes, we have, so in general, we have unloading dates and times. Said that's true every year. Our cattle are offloaded on grounds inside the fence, so they're not walking from a parking lot. The hogs are done the same way. The only animals that were parking in the dirt lot and walking in were sheep and goats. We have about 400 of those. So we're gonna bring them in a different way.
It's like I've seen
do that.
some people talking about thinking that they have to park all the way over by Bull's Field and bring their animals down, but that's not.
No. We're also evaluating at how many families we have. We're not gonna know that until our entry deadline, which is June 16th, 17th, somewhere around there. But how many families to see if we can give each family a parking pass on grounds, so they would have one vehicle on grounds. And then other vehicles in that family would have to park either across the railroad tracks. They could park in the lot on Blaine. There's places to park around there. I think, but it is a change.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like you have it worked out for this year, and then this progresses, it gets even better, as far as all that. That's it.
Okay, excellent. Council Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate as well this illustrious group of people gathered around these tables and the cordial and friendly interaction that we can have on this. I think if anything, this highlights for everybody how complex this matter truly is. When you look at the map you handed out, Mr. Mayor, and you realize that the city of Caldwell owns all of this with the exception of 3A in the center, and all of these stakeholders that we're trying to take care of with all of their needs and demands and wishes. And I think it's helpful for everyone seeing that this is a multifaceted diamond. And it is a diamond. This center, this complex, has the potential for so much, not just what we've already realized, but what we can realize in the future. And with expansion and with dreams of new buildings, it's clear that as the county grows, our need for facilities grows. And so I'm particularly pleased with the way this shows how challenging it is for us to be able to satisfy all of our partners. And when we talk about a coordinator for all of these events, that's essentially what the city does now in so many ways. While there's autonomy in your fair and in the rodeo, it's important for everybody to know that this is all city-owned property. And so we're looking at this and hearing some of this for the very first time. I had a fantastic conversation with Mr. Wolf today, and I would echo our gratitude to him for the community and all that he's done, and the family, how they have contributed. And even he was interesting to visit with about some of the complexities, the nuances. Every time we sit down or talk to somebody, we learn something we didn't know before. And I suppose that's why it's good to come together, because we're learning things here that we haven't heard. And so it makes for a challenge to process quickly, but it's good to see this and realize what a challenge it is as we seek to protect really all of our partners and be that arbiter of making sure everyone is satisfied. And so I'm glad we're sitting here and looking at this.
Okay, thank you so much. Councilor Elgood.
Yeah, thank you. We had a planning committee about a year ago where we were working on this exact subject, and my goal going into this planning committee was, how can we make more use out of this, as Councilor Williams said, out of this diamond? How can we get more activities? How can we get more happening out here on this property? Because there's so many times a year that this property sits silent. And there's other things we can do there. There's more things we can do there to get more people out there. And this is opportunity. Maybe we can accomplish some of that. I have a few questions, just technical questions, but overall, I mean, this is kind of my first blush at it, so it's going to take a minute or two for me to kind of wrap my head around it. But I'm not against it by any means. I just want to hear more about it. I'm very, very excited to talk contracts. I've read them as well, and they're antique. But a couple of things, and I'm not sure who's best to answer this. If we were to reroute Stock Trail to the described route here, is that a railroad lease, or do we own that?
So, and Mr. McDonald's here, so we jump in as need be. So I believe that, I know that it's a lease, so that would be one of the things that have to be worked out, because I believe that would be a lease.
Yeah, so along Stock Trail, that is railroad right away. It depends on how far you want to push the road. We would want to push it up as far as we can, right next to the tracks, to maximize the amount of space that can be used. It is railroad right away, and I have been negotiating with them the remainder of Stock Trail all the way over to 21st. That lease is actually expiring with Union Pacific, so I've been working with them to get a new lease for that entire stretch all the way to where it curves down. And I'm waiting for them at this point to start drafting something and putting that together.
And when we get a lease from them, typically what's the lifespan of that lease? What's been your experience?
Well, back in the old days, it used to be a long time, and they don't do that anymore. I think now they do 5-year leases, and they tend to charge a lot more. And so working with the railroad is not always easy to do, but I'm waiting to get something from them, and we will negotiate as best we can.
Okay.
Yeah, so because just to kind of go off that Stock Trail Road, the entire length of the existing Stock Trail is within railroad right away.
Correct.
Under that lease.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yep.
Thank you. And then the other thing, just throwing it out there for the commissioners, if the council determined that, I haven't been in that building since it was Idaho Power, it's been a long time ago, but if the council determined that they weren't interested in that particular piece of property, would there be anything else taken into consideration? It's just an old building, you know. But anyway, just throwing that out there, I'm not asking for a decision or whatever, but if the council said that's not a liability we wanted to take on, would you consider something else?
Is that just for us that don't know the Idaho Power? Is that the 501 main?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, yeah, yeah.
The admin building or something.
That's all, thank you.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Councilor Hidberg.
Well, I echo everyone else's comments and sentiment about getting everyone together and chatting about a very complex issue. And there's a ton of experience, a ton of knowledge sitting right here in this room that probably shouldn't be ignored or second guessed. So I appreciate everybody being here. As some of you know, I was on the sub-area master plan committee and was involved in a lot of meetings about this area. And I think there's a lot of potential here, not for only the city, but for the county, the rodeo, the fair, and for our population in general as we look to this to be developed as the greater event district in our city. But one of the things that I have questions about, and Councilor Doty brought them up, is what is the capital needs for the buildings 3A and 3B? My second question for the city is what would we do with those buildings? We know what you would do with Griffith Park, but what would we do with these buildings? I haven't heard anybody ever say, man, I wish we had these buildings. So what we're asking the city taxpayers to do is to take on the responsibility of maintaining some buildings that I'm not sure we wanted. So I would like to see whether or not there would be some need for those, because as the rodeo pointed out, and Ms. Ruby pointed out, that, you know, suppose we don't use building 3A and we sell it, it's detrimental to the rodeo. And so would the rodeo be willing to buy that from the city for a few $1 million and trade from the county? We just don't know whether or not the trade is a good trade yet. But I am willing to listen to all sides. I'd also like to know, before we go any further, whether or not we have any master plans for development. We talk about roads. Would that be the city's responsibility and obligation to fix Stock Trail? Would it be the city's obligation to do the parking? So not only are we now building a $2 million road and a $2 million parking lot, now we're taking on the responsibility of maintaining a couple buildings. And so I would just like some more questions answered about that. But for the most part, I think this is a great meeting, great conversations to have as we move forward to this area. And look forward to seeing how this conversation plays out, and look forward to seeing how the city can support our partners at the rodeo and the fair and the county. Oh, sorry. I like to take it.
Very good. I think Councilor Lewis, you have another.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a quick question. I'm sure this has already been discussed. We would have a compliance problem, especially for federal grants. We would be in need of another park. So that would be another concern we would need to address. Right?
So, yeah, that's a great question. I know that we have talked about that. And so that would require some further investigation to see, because it is going out of city, but again, it is going to stay in open space. I don't know the proper term on that. So we would have to look at what is the definition of that. Could it count even with the county owning it if it stays in the same configuration? And I've had some discussions with Tiffany France, our new Parks and Rec director, looking at, other areas that we are trying to acquire or put into park system. They have a really healthy impact fee budget right now, balance on that. So there's that ability to look at that. So those questions and discussions have come up. So that would be one of those details we'd have to obviously look into, because like you stated, we don't want to get out of compliance in that regard. So what that kind of entails, just so everybody's aware, is that when we have park space, well, that actually, now that I'm talking this through, because the one that Councilor Williams is referencing is at Wilson School, and correct me if I'm wrong in this, Wilson Elementary, there was a park, tennis courts, that was converted to parking, because there was a need for parking. However, those tennis courts were built with federal grant dollars. So once they got removed from being a park space, we are out of compliance with that because we've used federal grant dollars. So I guess the question actually would come up, I do not believe any federal grant dollars were utilized out here, so it would not put us out of compliance with federal grant. We'll double check that. I'm looking at Ray Lynn on that. So it would not put us out of compliance on that, but again, we would want to see, okay, we're taking away, baseball fields. Is there somewhere else that has a need for some softball fields? And I have had those discussions with Tiffany. There's some parkland that's being dedicated right now from a development, and it's around 12 to 15 acres. And so we've looked at that piece of property to see could we thus build some softball fields in that location to replace these. So I think it's more not, we're not going to be out of compliance with a federal grant, but just more still providing the amenities that are being lost there in other locations. Yes.
I just would like to hear from our event center superintendent. He's been quiet over there, just.
No, I'm pretty much listening to all the options and whatnot. I think this area is pretty fluid with all these big events, and obviously in the summertime, we don't see it as much. And this area is not as quiet as everybody thinks it is. It's busy, and we have activities on a weekly basis, from college practices, games, soccer. People concentrate their attention on football because that's the biggest program, but let's not forget that they got soccer, lacrosse, soccer female and male soccer program. And it's pretty active, event center throughout the whole year, pretty much. Including, events that happen on the Fair Building, field houses booked, once, twice a week, throughout the whole year. So this is going to require pretty heavy thinking of how it's going to work out for everybody. The event center has always been the goal to make sure that everybody is accommodated with what they need. Sometimes we don't have the finances to accommodate everybody the right way, but yeah, I mean, it's great, I think, if it works out for everybody. Concerns about, the Stock Trail on the lease, that's the main access point to all these facilities. If we lose that lease with the railroad, it's a huge problem. But I'm just listening like everybody else, and if I don't have any questions or input, I'll definitely share it.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't need an answer today, but if you have thoughts on absorbing the back half of that property, the Charlie Bar and everything back to Stock Trail, at some point, definitely the council would want to know what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a building that we can lease. Historically, most of these facilities, they're not designed to make a lot of money. They're more community buildings where we keep kids and community with doing activities that they like to do. The revenue is obviously a challenge. And I mean, we see it with the field house and we see it with, so they serve different purposes, you know, rent and also accommodate community events. So,
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to take just a couple moments to address some of the questions you all had related to the rodeo in your various statements, if you don't mind. Councilor Doty, in terms of the lease agreement, rodeo is really not asking for anything more. We're just asking for the commitments that we've had in place to be memorialized in the lease agreement. And I think we'd like to look at an extension to the lease, especially where we're investing $7 million in the facility. We are seeing some pushback from sponsors on the length of our lease. So I do think that would be another area that we would want to negotiate, is simply just prolonging that lease. But really, it's just the things we've been doing already that we'd like to get into that lease agreement. So nothing really new that the rodeo is asking for. Aside from some of the facilities that we're utilizing on a regular basis. You know, we're constantly working with Juan to see how early we can get into the facility before rodeo, et cetera, et cetera. That creates some challenge with us in our planning efforts. And so having within the lease, when we have access to the different facilities, including what the county will in the future own, would be really important to us. And then also of importance is an agreement on the hotel lot. We recognize that the lot itself will continue to be city property. We'd like an agreement that gives us access to that, so the hotel doesn't come back someday and say, no, thank you. This is not to be used for rodeo parking any longer. So for us, it's really just having some confidence that the things that we've shaken hands on, we have legal protection from. Councilor Register on the youth events. It is incredibly important to us that the fair is successful. We are a not-for-profit organization that focuses on the Western way of life, and you don't have the Western way of life without the fair. So while our rodeo interests are really important to us, equally important are the fair's interests. And so we are actively working on plans for this year to try to support each other through our events, knowing construction's ongoing. But our ultimate event is to bring more events, and particularly more Western-themed youth events into the facility after our renovations are done. And that's where we'd really be looking for support from this group. We should have high school rodeo finals for Idaho in Caldwell. We should have the Western Circuit finals right here in Caldwell. So, I mean, these are the things that we'd like to see added. But I don't want there to be concern that the rodeo is asking for more in terms of lease. It's really just finalizing what we've already agreed to.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, may I comment? And that's what I'm saying with the coordinator, because if you want to add those, you're going to need some of this parking that the county would then control. Right? And you don't want to plan that for year after year. And then, I'm not saying they would, but then they have a big event that also wants to come and use their grounds that I'm sure they would feel is equally important. Now, so you're right, that's what I'm saying. I didn't even imply you wanted more, but those things have to be figured out. Is that once it's scheduled, and everyone else has to play a part. Y'all each get an equal share of the weekends. And I just think it takes a coordinator trying to do that versus each one of you trying to call each other all the time, saying what's going on, right? Sure. That two events are going, and where's the line, and where's it divided, or is it just first come, first serve? And it's those fine details that I'm worried about.
Agreed.
The handshakes are great until there's a conflict. And now you have two events coming, two large events at the same time. That's not going to get figured out in an hour when everybody's arriving. So those are the things you tell.
So, yeah, 3 points. Other thoughts, questions? I know there's a lot of homework that I've already not looked that we're going to have to.
Yeah, you're kind of hitting on where I was going. This is not something we should let sit around. We should probably have a plan to continue this discussion. Something planned. I don't know what that would be, but what's next kind of thing is what I was going to say.
Yeah, for sure. So I think with this, like I said, it's a lot of homework. So what we'll do is kind of go back. Like I said, we didn't want to go all the way down this road and find out that the road ended and there was a cliff at the end. So we wanted to get everybody together, have that discussion with all the parties involved to see if there is a light at the tunnel, even if it is a long ways down there, and it appears there is. So we appreciate that very much. And the feedback, I said the feedback we got was great. A lot of talk about a coordinator position to make sure that everything flows together pretty smoothly. I think it's fantastic, and I really liked it. I apologize, I have it written down here, but I can't remember who said it, about this area becoming active. It may have been you, Councilor, all good the entire year, right? That it's not these, obviously we're gonna have these wonderful big events, but could this be something that just really blossoms into just this diamond in the rough that now is this shining, hope diamond that everybody knows and sees about, and kind of utilize that, which again means that coordinator position is even more important if we have even more that's going on out there. So I think the next step is kind of again, put our heads back together and start figuring out a lot of these details. And I agree 100% with Elisa. It's funny, I was actually just talking with our city attorney yesterday, and I was going to catch you after today, but this kind of takes care of it. This, like for an example is, I've been talking to Juan, the Idaho Renaissance Festival wants to come to Caldwell this year, and looking at that and renting out maybe the rodeo arena, Gabriela Field. So I was asking Juan about, does that come through the city or through the rodeo? And so we used to do the rodeo, so we looked at the lease, and it's really vague actually. And so it's like, well, what happens if the rodeo schedules an event and we schedule an event on the same day, not knowing? And so we were actually having those discussions yesterday about we need to really look at these leases and get them back up to date. And again, the handshake agreements were great back in the day, and not that we don't trust each other, but we need that in writing to know exactly who's taking care of what, who's scheduling these areas instead of you're not scheduling or we're scheduling something at the same time. So a lot of those things, it can help a lot of those issues that exist today by going through this, getting to the end of the day. We're going to have everything buttoned up, tightened where it needs to be, so we're all on the same page at the end of the day. So, yeah, we will get to work on all of these comments, except we took them all down. And then, yeah, I think it'd be great to come back. I hate to put a date out there because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff we're going to have to do. So, but as soon as possible, said I agree with that. We don't want to have this great discussion and leave it on a shelf for 6 months or a year. We want to come back as soon as possible, that we can get everything put together. We have incredible staff here at the city. Again, it's been great working with the county as well, and the college and the rodeo. So we can continue moving forward with the discussion tonight. The concerns, getting those kind of taken care of, but buttoned up, and come back with all of you with another presentation, and then seek some more guidance, direction at that time. Councilor Stoddard?
Yeah, just 2 points. Actually, one concern I had about the hotel was being a farm boy, the smell. What do you do with all the refuse? There were some people that say you can just wash that stuff down the drain. That doesn't work very well. So that's a big concern, like I say, when you talk about the lease and what the hotel can allow you to do and all that stuff. And as far as Regan and the post is concerned, as well, broken down semi-paved fence again, and I look for your program to be kind of a bowl type facility. And if you fill that up, which I think you will in the next 10 years, we can do good parking for all of you too. So those are two big concerns.
Okay, excellent. Any other thoughts, comments before we wrap up? Okay, very good. Well, I want to say thank you again to everyone that came, and also to the public that was out here for this. So we have, let's take a lot of homework. We'll get to it, and we'll be back. So that'll end our meeting at this time.
Yeah.